Okay, this is, for my own record keeping, 71. Page 71. Nope, need a light. Oh, that does low light pretty good. Just pretty good. Okay. Alright. Okay, basically, a particle is traveling through space, and this space wraps around the particle rather than the particle traveling through space from the point of view of space. But as far as the particle is concerned, it doesn't notice. The particle doesn't have to be moving, but I think it's moving, or I like to think of it as moving. Nonetheless, an indivisible space is one particle, and in this case, it's not the particle that moves, but space, and the other point of view is that the particle moves through space or in space. Space, an orbit up, down, and the poles of this can be flipping and turning at 360 degrees, and by 360 degrees, you know, we just use degrees, but it shows that there's infinitely possible. Every path is optical. Elliptical. The center around radius point, not to mention every other direction possible within the pole. Example, pulsar. What is a pulsar? When I was a kid, I had this idea that a black hole, against common known, we knew about pulsars, but I wondered if the centrifugal force inside of a black hole, like if the rotation of the beginning black hole was such, whereas even though we can't see it, even though we can't calculate it, that this centrifugal force of the internal structure of the black hole would come out of the event horizon and then go back past the event horizon. It would oscillate, creating like an oscillating black hole or a pulsating black hole. Which, since then, I don't think that's. It's an interesting idea. I think I might have been. How old was I? Yeah, probably in my 20s, I think. But what is a pulsating black hole? Where infinite centrifugal force overpowers infinite centripetal force, and then it slows and repeats. The way you calculate it is with classic general relativity. Works right up to the edge of the black hole, and after passing the event horizon, a new corpuscular time forms, or use general relativity inside of the singularity. The event horizon is a nearly complete separate. The event horizon is a nearly complete separation of systems. The only thing shared is gravity. There could be a few exceptions. By the way, in a black hole, that is quantum gravity, so the space in the black hole and the space that makes up our space are connected. The black hole space could be moving beyond comprehension, but might be at some even integer of light speed here. I am talking about our black hole and our space each separately. Black hole has separate dual corpuscular time systems of time. The diagram previously stated simplified what it would look like. It basically is not a very good picture. Space could flow through, after all. No mass particles exist there. This is V space connected to R space. Okay. How does it work? Because in our time, black hole time is so fast it travels back in time, but this is just a buffer to connect the quantum reality to our reality. Question, how big is the buffer? Unknown. As big as it needs to be. a time buffer, who'd thought? The other possibility is all particles are stacked and the middle of this happens at the same time. Since every point in space is the center of the black hole, because a void space is indivisible and this cancels, well, it's divided by the fact that the space particle, I call it the space particle, the whole space particle is the center of the black hole, and also that very center that's equivalent to the size of the base particle, which I believe is very likely a Planck length. And I used to, since measuring a particle, it's measured like a singularity. So, but if centripetal force, like in our space here, we have particles that are kind of they seem to be, we don't really know what holds them together, but if it's this dualistic corpuscular time I'm talking about, when protons and neutrons are all bound together and they seem to be defying common sense, it's basically because they don't have anywhere else to go. They're kind of like trapped there, and the most logical course of action is an orbit, and that orbit has base particles and rules, and it devises a mechanism that creates this atom, or various other things. As, let's see, but that Planck length in every point in space creates, if you draw it out as vector diagrams, you'll have a bunch of arrows pointing inward at every Planck length, except below the Planck length, that's where that leakage would occur, and then that's where you'd get the weak force. And and then you have two particles, you'd have the accumulated weak force that bleeds through. And so the funny thing is that when either a clump of particles or one particle comes through into the space particle, as far as the black hole is concerned, it doesn't care where it is in the space particle, because it's all considered captured. But the particle independently gains degrees of freedom within that space particle. It can go anywhere in there, and it's not a violation. So, and then two of them can go in different directions, and it's still not a violation. So that's how it creates this reality. It's pretty amazing. But when you jump, you're actually being drawn to the center of an attractor. The black hole that we never left. Yeah, so a black hole is a dualistic corpuscular time set, that setter, particle unitizing reality maker. So, indivisible, and this cancels the pull throughout space, but quantum gravity remains, though weak. It is accumulative because these particles share their own mutual attraction to the center of the black hole. It will be the only particle that has no center. Oh, that's talking about the space particle, and is all in the center. That's the whole mass of it from another point of view, from its own point of view, and from the black hole's point of view, it's captured all of space. And real particles that are created by the interactions of massless particles and potential massless particles that are built from the spaghettification process. Yes, that still occurs, of the black hole after that, in the white hole, our particles assemble. And I call the white holes completely, different, but I like to think of it that way because you have this space particle that has unique properties. It can be, it can be simultaneously one particle's prison and another particle's prison and another particle's prison, and then it can act like it's sharing it all at the same time, and they all have independent directions of freedom within that space. Amazing. Wow, beautiful. The wave function is a wake of a partially out of phase corpuscular time, a reality, and the black hole, that set time for that reality. The universe is one with space, with is one with black hole space. Yeah. Excuse me. Don't think for a second that all black holes are inhabitable. Too small, not the right matter. At least you should be able to see that open or closed is not really a problem, and it's more like an equilibrium. The black hole isn't going to undo itself anytime soon, and Stephen Hawking's radiation is not... well, I found some different data about this. Okay, so we'll get into that later. But Stephen Hawking shows that a black hole can evaporate over a long period of time. And also there could be radiation outside the black hole that gets sucked in, so this just builds a black hole. So, in order for this evaporation to actually have an effect, you'd have to be evaporating more than you're taking in. So that might be cancelled, actually. Maybe. Since our space is expanding, it is obvious that matter is being fed into our black hole. That was actually something I've kind of abandoned, but because of the optical effect that I was talking about earlier. But it technically it's still possible because we see it in space. Maybe from a nearby star. Okay, so since our space is expanding, it's obvious that matter may be being fed into our black hole, maybe from a nearby star. When that star collapses into our black hole, that could be the end. Another form of space could exist in the black hole if the black hole forms with all matter as a big long bar of energy, like so. So even though a black hole doesn't really have edges like this is drawn, but like right here, if your corpuscular time shared space, imagine that all your galaxies and suns and all the energy formed like a rotating bar in the center of this unit. I don't want to call it a universe. I'd rather call it space-time, or a dualistic corpuscular time shared space. So, because the universe is all of it. But this dualistic corpuscular time here has that bar through, and theoretically could create particles that are going in such a way as to hit the non-edges and may be able to quantum tunnel out. Since the energy is wrapping in on itself, that's basically it. It might quantum tunnel out of the black hole. This could be like giant plumes on both ends of the black hole, which we see. They should be expelled at near light speed, and they are. A very big clip of light speed. Loss of energy through the transition, because it's like two maybe a third of the speed of light, or two-thirds. I remember reading about it. Space is one particle in the black hole and has no beginning, no end, and is not divisible. Let me check the time on this. That's about half. This camera goes half an hour at a time. Space is one particle in the black hole, has no beginning, no end, and is not divisible. Every point in this space is its center, and that center has all energy pushing in from every point in our space like this. So you've got these little arrows all pointing in. That's a Planck length. I mean, at least expect it to be a Planck length. And then this is three-dimensionally stacked. So this these points are basically the fact that the gravity well does that to every point within the space particle, and that cancels most of gravity except for that weak force. So it creates a space with degrees of freedom, and the black hole doesn't care. It's done its job. Since these points are either either from the singularity or the centripetal force of gravity in the black hole, well, not space, but particles, yes, has changed the diameter of the unitized particles, and so this would quantify the way these cancellations are placed. It would seem gravity cancellations are infinitesimally small, no, not really size 0, but because we have the weak force. This makes it so it cancels all but the weak force of gravity. In this weak force, leakage through the quantum level, no, each particle is falling to the center of the black hole, and in our space everything but the weak force is cancelled, but gravity is holding everything together and is in some way connected to the strong force, and that's a different story, and keeps assembled particles together. There is no possibility of escape. Does gravity cancellation have a resolution, maybe Planck scale? So like I said, this is the earlier stuff that I was doing. I decided to go through this like this because I could be updating this for many years, and I've been listening online and looking at my model connecting so well, I wanted to share it. especially the part, a black hole is, or our space is a dualistic corpuscular time, which is superposition and space-time. And then a dualistic corpuscular time is the black hole that we never left, which is a black hole that we never left. A black hole is a dualistic corpuscular time setter, particle reunitizing reality maker. Inflation is obviously that all space is swallowed at the formation of the black hole. Space forms in a reality, then energy, particle formation, suns, galaxies, etc., so forth. All points are the center. Kind of a crude diagram here that just shows that that this is in the center, falling to the center of the black hole. This is in the center, falling to the center of the black hole, and then all of these added together are in the center, falling to the the center of its own center. So because you have two objects, say they're equal mass, there'll be a contradiction that forms, and they may join forces to fall to the center of the black hole. One is mechanically well, there's a mechanical update and then a degree of freedom update, two separate kind of updates. And the mechanical update is your particle update, and your degree of freedom update is the independence that you gain within the space particle. Space is the fluff that time and light rides on. So some of these things I say are just ideas and not necessarily solidified yet, because like I said, this is still early. Gravity or mutual gravity can break free from and reunitize space. Mutual mass has its own center. It pulls down and out of this space unitization, but it can break through and cause a space-time rupture that creates a new space-time by reunitizing the diameter of the resultant attractors. Actually, by reunitizing particles within the attractors. The diameter of red or particles would be different in each corpuscular time. Red, using red because it's polarized light, and we know the diameter of it's right around 700 nanometers. But the particle knows no difference. If you could lay a photon over a photon from two corpuscular spaces, one would be bigger than the other, and yet they'd be the same exact one. And then what for a while there I was wondering what, like a transmission, what creates a connection between the two different corpuscular times. And the funny thing is that I don't really need to know. I suspect it's the Higgs field. But the point is that since of all the measurements that have been done, we know that it happens. We don't need to know how, or we can try to find out. But I'm just saying, it's kind of obvious that it happens. Let's see. Gravity is a curved differential manifold of dimension 4 that has a Lorentzian signature. Problem, that's just a quote. Problem of particle in the center of the black hole. Space bulges out into reality where we are a particle that forms, or where we are, a particle forms that forms in reality is a consistent, a coinciding, cooperating collision between a dualistic corpuscular nature of a black hole as a reunitized space-time realm. Since every point in space is a space particle, and it has the space itself has no edge, no beginning, no end, then every point is the center. Now you can see why I think I was talking about quantum tunneling there. I don't know why. See, if there is no limit in an infinitely divisible space as the flow of space around a particle, the cycle would never finish except with infinite time. It still wouldn't finish. Wait. Yeah, let's see. Oh, infinitely divisible, yeah. That's the halting problem. Since we know that a certain amount of matter and space went into the black hole, we know that it will make that much proportionately to whatever the reunitization is. This means that likely an attractor effect at the center centers the flow that could act like a jump here. A jump that is, from our point of view, based on the speed of light. In reality, it isn't beyond light speed from superposition, these particles' point of view. They have their own restraints. Okay, so basically I've reworded this into frames, and frames are you can draw, like many frames or just a few frames of reference, and then when the frames coincide or they overlap, that's when you get a persistent particle. One cycle through our space could be completed before we could even perceive it. And there is only one problem about this, that it is not a anyway, that's what I think actually happens, is that one cycle occurs and we're here, we're not even aware it's a superposition thing. That fact is that infinite approximation has the singularity at every point in our space except where there is a coincidence, a particle and that particle's gravitational individually is preserved. Thus, all other gravity in the space of the singularity is cancelled. Basically, just talking about how cancellation of gravity occurs in the black hole. Only particles have gravity, but the singularity space gravity is cancelled. This is nearly infinitely spread through our space. Well, it looks infinite to us, but it's not actually. The beauty of that limit to see all space is that it makes space make sense, in that taking a near infinitely small section becomes flat or squared like this, and of course this rotation at 360 degrees by 360 degrees at the Planck scale. So the trajectories, even though reality it would be wrapping around, your space particle would be in here, and the energies that create particles would be updating those little spots. And actually, in all 360 by 360 directions. Notice how small these are, but what a beautiful picture. So here is a crude drawing, but let's see, we've got this is a conceptual drawing of a singularity, in that this would be the singularity's energies. From the particle point of view, it believes it's just traveling around in the singularity. From another point of view, the singularity believes it has the particle totally trapped. And then space particle be this part here, and then our ability to see is only out to the edges of how far we can see. The max length that we can see is to here, but our time-shared space would extend further, but we can only see out so far, and this would be our planet. But from every spot inside of this place, it would always look like that. Space, singularity's path creates cancelled gravity. It's a quantum job canceling gravity except the particle. Light's max reach, that was the circle. Under this method, it doesn't matter where you are stuck right there. Two particles still stuck, billions of particles still stuck in the middle, each one individually. A planet still stuck in the middle, a sun still stuck in the middle. It's beautiful, nearly perfect symmetry. So, you're stuck in a reality, and it actually gives you freedom. I'm just saying that you're held by gravity. It doesn't have to be the word stuck. It sounds bad, but it's not. It gives us our planet. This is just a diagram, but in reality there is no edge of space. It might be that the event horizon is repulsive from the outside. This might help explain some gravitational lensing. So this is a more detailed diagram, but it's still just done with pen and it's not done drawn perfectly. See? Oh yeah. So look at that beautiful thing, a built space-time right here. So it looks like a cube, and then every point within that cube has its trajectory, and every part of that cube is divided up by Planck lengths that are updated by in the space particle. And it's similar to that other one I showed you, this one, but as you notice, it's a cube and it's three-dimensional. Now this is just a conceptual drawing of what's happening. And two things, I call this the core, and it also says see closed door singularities, which means that I started realizing there could be singularities that don't allow stuff to enter.